Whenever I think about modern day anime classics, Attack on Titan is the first series that comes to mind in its potential to transcend generations as what we refer to as a classic. So, to you, 2,000 years from now, believe it or not, despite all the quality that Attack on Titan brings, it's hard to believe we're here. Attack on Titan is a series that historically has had a rough time when it comes to its production. And while Season 4 was announced to air sometime in 2020, merely a couple of hours after the Season 3 finale, there were already rumors before that, claiming that the final season of Attack on Titan would not be produced by the usual Studio Wit. And this was confirmed sort of all at once. Not only had Studio Wit announced a shift in focus towards an original work by the name of Great Pretender, but also after almost an entire year with zero information or news regarding the adaptation, the trailer dropped. A new studio, new staff, key visuals, you name it, we got it. And although everything was received ridiculously well by most fans, it obviously came with a price. Later, the Attack on Titan producers over at WIT mentioned how the reason behind the studio change was the fact that a continuation by Studio WIT would just be too difficult. And a lot goes into that, obviously. Not just time constraints, but quality expectations within said time constraints that just overall led to an awful work environment and an overworked staff. And so, Studio MAPPA ended up being the only studio who was willing to push the project out as fast as the suits wanted it to be. Basically, MAPPA willingly took this project on with no regard for its workers, for clout and profit, which lead to people like series director Yuichiro Hayashi getting handed this ridiculously unreasonable job. But it's through his and the rest of the staff's passion for the medium that I found the first 8 episodes of this anime season so enjoyable to watch. Out of the 8 episodes that have released as I'm writing this, the 3 that have received the most reasonable criticism amongst fans are episodes 61, 62, and 64. Most issues having to do with how those episodes went about adapting the source material. So let's look at the dinner scene in episode 61. Isayama in the manga does this really cool thing where we get close-ups of Reiner throughout the entirety of him recalling his time on Parody. And it's important to note that at this point in the manga, Isayama's art has evolved to a point where some of those expressions and panels say more than words themselves can. Reiner's giggle, him trying to cover it up, Reiner going on an uninterrupted rant. It's all relevant to the scene. Meanwhile, the anime simply uses a single shot that steadily zooms into a stone-faced Reiner. Any and all of Reiner's expression and nuance gone, but Reiner's overall belief can and is still captured through the stories he shares, and how the characters he describes are so detached from what's expected of the parody Eldians by the people of Marley. There's definitely a difference in how the scene is handled depending on the medium, both in approach and conclusion, but there's no misleading how Reiner feels, and no disservice done to his character. Episode 62 also suffers from an adaptation standpoint, but in this case it's from cut content and pacing issues. And yeah, ideally, maybe you cut this section of the manga up into 2 episodes so you can truly give Reiner's backstory the time it needs before you reach his suicide attempt. After all, while Reiner isn't necessarily a new character, this is the first time he's been given so much focus. But Reiner's flashback in episode 62, while incomplete and rushed, is presented in such an interesting way that feels a lot more fragmented. Almost as if Reiner's memory of this mission is a bunch of broken little pieces. A very effective way to skip over certain material while also giving an added focus to the material that's most important given the character we're focusing on. You see, despite the cuts, we still see Reiner constantly make decisions in the pursuit of a role, those of son, warrior, and hero. And we see the mental toll constantly being rejected of these roles takes on him, which makes comments saying that certain scenes don't carry any emotional weight even harder for me to understand. The weight comes from understanding that these are the moments that Reiner looks back on with regret as he attempts to muster up a moment's courage. Reiner would much rather end his life than return to parody. And these are feelings that begin to overflow once he's confronted by one of the people his actions has brought about so much pain. Seeing Eren give Reiner the closure he needs by judging him and his actions and understanding the motive behind them, while also making Reiner understand that he now has to do the same thing in order to save his world, is a brilliant piece of writing and highlights how these two characters are two sides of the same coin and victims of circumstance. And it's this that makes the build-up to the declaration of war as impactful as it is, not the OST. I've been wondering if opinions on episode 64 would have been different had we not gotten that leaked OST or that leaked image preview for episode 65 at a time where episode 64 hadn't even aired. And the complaints I've seen for episode 65 through 67 and how they looked were all just so unfair and inconsiderate that I struggle to take them seriously. Being unhappy with a series or an episode because it's too much like the source material, cuts out some of your favorite parts, has CGI you're not fond of, or maybe just because you disagree with how a part of the story was handled, is completely valid. As a matter of fact, one of those reasons is the reason I don't really enjoy the Dr. Stone anime, and one of the reasons series like Mob Psycho 100 and Hunter x Hunter get a ton of praise. To consistently produce seasons and episodes worth of moments that feel and look as good as they should is definitely something worth praising. But don't get it twisted, we are not entitled to that. And the fact that some people think they are, to the point where they're harassing staff on Twitter because they didn't play their favorite OST during a scene, or they felt a scene wasn't as impactful as it could have been, or because they feel like too much CGI is being used, is disappointing, to say the least. There seems to be this misconception online that the staff workers at MAPPA chose to produce this season of Attack on Titan despite the production issues that came with it. However, this is false. Trust me, if it were up to the staff workers, they'd be more than happy to delay this season until they could give it all the attention it deserves. But if you want somebody to blame the production committee and the studio that picked up the work and enforced such a god-awful production schedule on underpaid and overworked staff members that somehow still managed to capture the essence of the story they're adapting, because goddamn, this staff and cast have been hitting nothing but net for 8 weeks straight now. And look, I'm not going to tell you what to value in a story, but to me, what matters most is that the characters and the story don't suffer due to some adjustment or average animation here or there. And it hasn't, and the staff hasn't given me a reason to believe that it will. And it's all because there's a lot of good here. Look, the staff knows how big the shoes they have to fill are. And while I don't agree with MAPPA and their release as much content as you can for the sake of profit with little to no regard for our workers' mentality, I'm not going to prey on this season's downfall simply for a point to be proven. I feel that's kind of petty, and I feel like my energy is better spent praising the staff that push out a quality product week after week, despite the conditions and circumstances they find themselves in. Listen, with this video, I'm by no means trying to strip you of your right to express how you feel about an episode, but I am trying to give you some information that might change how you view this adaptation and maybe even have you appreciate some parts of it rather than have you thinking about what could have been every week. Because whether we like it or not, a big part of anime history is coming to an end. And who knows when it'll be that we get to experience a certified hood classic ending in this way. So let's just try and enjoy it. Yo, what's up? First off, I truly hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. It was quite difficult, judging by the fact that I had COVID and was moving throughout the entire process, and I'm still not done, but I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. If this video piqued your interest and you want to hear my thoughts on the rest of the Attack on Titan season, as well as any other thing I want to talk about, be sure to subscribe and to hit that bell. Also, feel free to leave a comment letting me know what you thought about what I thought, or your opinion on how the anime is doing so far, or anything else you have on your mind. More frequent videos are definitely coming, so be on the lookout, but until then, I'll see you all soon. Later.